so the first test I want to do right now is to check the elasticity. And you do this by taking the hair when it's wet. It's easiest to do when it's wet, placing it between your fingers and stretching it. Does the hair feel strong, or does it feel like it stretches out and doesn't go back to normal? Hey guys, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm Laura, I'm a hairstylist, and I'm dedicated to giving you the best tips and tricks to make every day a good hair day. So today we're gonna compare lightening with Olaplex versus without Olaplex. So before we get started, I first want to talk about what Olaplex even is. Olaplex is a patented product that has been made to rebuild the bonds in the hair as it's being colored. So inside of the hair, there are bonds that are holding the hair together. So bond builders, in a sense, are strengthening the hair. It's important to distinguish that this is not moisturizing the hair, it's strengthening the hair. Now, this does not mean that it can actually repair breakage. If hair has broken off, you can't replace the hair that has fallen off. But what it can do is it can help strengthen the bonds that hold the hair together, making it stronger and less susceptible to breakage. This is the main thing that Olaplex was created to do. This was their very first product, and the product that I'm going to use today is number 1 and number 2. If you've noticed that their retail products start at number 3, this is why, because 1 and 2 are for use in salon only when the hair is being colored. Now, Olaplex is not the only product on the market as a bond builder, but they were the first ones, and they do have a patented formula that no other brands can use. Personally, I prefer Olaplex over all of the other bond builders, but that's just my take. And I'm not being sponsored by Olaplex either. I'm merely just sharing my knowledge and my experience of working with the product. So we're going to be comparing the speed at which the hair processes, as well as the condition of the hair when we're done processing. All right, so I've got everything laid out here, and the lightener that I'm using today is Pravana's Pure Light Power Lightener that gives you up to 7 levels of lift. Now, this lightener does not contain a bond builder in it. It's important to note that some lighteners do contain bond builders in them. And for the sake of this experiment, I wanted to make sure I was using a lightener that did not include a bond builder in it. So I made these swatches from hair that was cut off of one of my clients. This is virgin hair. It's about a level 5. I know the lighting over here is hard to see. There's no color on this hair, so that's important to note when paying attention to the lift that we get. It's going to be much better with virgin hair than it would if it was color treated. And here we can see I've got my lightener developer. I'm using a 30 volume developer, and Olaplex in this bowl and no Olaplex in this bowl. So it's important when using bleach, or really any color, but particularly bleach, when you're trying to get good lift, that you really saturate the hair very well. If the hair is not saturated properly, you are not going to get a good lift. So I mixed up 5 grams of lightener for this swatch, and I'm going to use just about all 5 grams on this, just so this swatch is fully saturated so we get best results. All right, so now that I've got the color applied, I'm actually gonna go ahead and set these outside while they process. And this is the equivalent to sitting underneath of a hooded dryer in the salon. The heat just helps to speed up the processing a little bit. Alrighty, so I just finished rinsing these, and I did the Olaplex step 2. It's very important to not forget to do step 2 when you do use Olaplex. It's a 2-step process, and the second step is applied after the lightener is rinsed out. So we finished that, and now we can see the 2 colors wet, and honestly they look very similar wet. They both look like they have lifted pretty well. And so the first test I want to do right now is to check the elasticity. And you do this by taking the hair when it's wet. It's easiest to do when it's wet, placing it between your fingers and stretching it. Does the hair feel strong, or does it feel like it stretches out and doesn't go back to normal? And this hair with Olaplex, no surprise, feels very strong. It's not stretching and doesn't feel like bubble gum. So let's check the swatch without Olaplex. And this one also feels pretty strong. There's no stretching or bubblegum mushy feeling. The hair feels pretty intact. Here are our final results, and as far as lightening power, they look exactly the same. And when it comes to feeling them, as far as the integrity of the hair, the one with Olaplex does feel quite a bit smoother than the one without Olaplex. If you look very closely, you can see this one does look a little bit smoother and this one is a little bit more roughed up. So what this means is that likely if you were to look at this hair under a microscope, the outer layer of this hair would be open. The outer layer of a hair strand resembles fish scales and it opens and closes. So on this hair, those fish scales would likely be smoothed over and much more closed than these hairs would be under a microscope. And when those scales are open, the hair is much more susceptible to damage. All right, so I'll let you guys be the judge. Do you think using Olaplex is worth it or not? Is there enough of the difference to justify the cost of putting Olaplex in with your lightener, or are the results too similar for you? My thoughts on this are, if you color the hair over and over with Olaplex versus without Olaplex, eventually the hair without Olaplex would become damaged and break much sooner than the hair with Olaplex. All right, that's going to be it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure you subscribe if you want to make every day a good hair day.